Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Eric, KJ4YZI with HamRadioConcepts, going back to my roots of where this YouTube channel all began. A name that someone, probably everyone, will remember and recognize, Baofeng. Okay, now the UV5R Baofeng in a minute of history was probably one of the most successful Chinese radios that flooded the market. Yes, it was a cheaper handheld, probably some lesser features than expensive handhelds, but the reality is 1 out of 3 people watching this video right now own or have owned a Baofeng. Now, the average person cannot tell when you're talking on a repeater through a Baofeng or a $500 handheld. It's just a good handheld that, works and does its job. It's affordable enough to put it in your Go kit. It's affordable enough to break it or to give it a new guy that's a tech that just got his license and wants to get on the air but cannot afford a $400 radio that you may have told him he wanted. Now, with the years of Baofeng coming through, they made some changes. A lot of their, they started with that classic UV5R, and the UV5R was a staple for a year and a half. And then they came out with the GT3 and the BFF8 Plus and the 8-watt versions and all that. But essentially, they were a Baofeng with a different case and maybe a little higher output, but essentially the same radio. So Baofeng, in 2017, decided to come out and step into the DMR market. DMR is not a brand of a radio. DMR is a technology, digital mobile radio. And Baofeng thought, wow, this is really getting popular. And I remember saying this to a couple other manufacturers and stuff. I said, nobody really knows this yet, but this is taking off. And of course, it's not my doing, but everybody jumped on board. And now everybody makes a DMR radio. It's not that China or Baofeng cloned and made a cheaper version of a DMR radio. They made a DMR capable unit, digital capable unit. So no unboxing here. We're going to get rid of this. But in the past, you may have seen a video when I first saw the first attempt of DMR was the Baofeng DM5R. Now that was their very first attempt and it failed because it was only a tier 1 radio, not tier 2 compliant. Now tier 1 for those who don't know, to sum it up, that radio, the DM5R, was good enough to talk with another person at a camp or while traveling on digital, but not through repeaters because it caused issues with tier 2 repeaters, being that it was a tier 1 radio. So a lot of people bought them and were unhappy. And it was a decent radio. It worked good, but it didn't work good through repeaters. It did work through hotspots, and it did work locally on simplex. Then they came out with the DM5R Plus, which was supposed to be the fix to that. Okay, we're going to come out with a new one, and this is the Plus version. This is Tier 2 compatible. Unfortunately, that flunked too. And again, good for a hotspot or local communications or simplex. Not good through repeaters. But they already sold thousands and thousands of them. So what they did was they threw this claim out that if you paid $10, you can get software that would turn your DM5R Plus into a Tier 2 radio. Guess what? Vaporware. Never happened. It was flunk. So then they decided with this one, their third attempt, which actually proves successful. The RD5R Baofeng, which kind of resembles a lot of other Baofengs you see with the new name, RD5R. And this Baofeng actually is a Tier 2 compatible radio. And we're going to talk about it, but not too in depth because, yes, it is a Baofeng. You're probably familiar that a Baofeng has a flashlight. You're probably familiar the flashlight blinks, and you're probably familiar it takes an SMA adapter or a SMA connector, and you can use this for analog and digital. Specifically, 136 through 174 VHF, analog and digital. 400 through 480 megahertz, UHF, analog, and digital. The only thing about this one is it's a little bit more comprehensive in the menu than something like a UV5R. In the past, the UV5R was so easy I could pick the radio up, go in the menu, and do 3 things. Go to number 26 to set the offset, 25 to set the shift, and 13 to set the tone. This one probably you requires this programming cable that comes with it to get you up to speed, okay? I'll show you the software here in a second and show you, yeah, it's not that bad to program it, and you don't need to buy software. It is available free. You don't have to listen to people that say you cannot use the factory software, that you must get chirp. That's false. But maybe Chirp is compatible with it, and maybe Chirp is a better software. But I'm going to show you on the stock software the ease of using it to program a couple channels. We'll make a couple contacts real quick, see what the locals say. And, you may be in the market to get a DMR radio that is fully Tier 2 compatible, that works inexpensively enough, under $100. I think they're going for around $70. It's got a newer refined screen on it with a different font, a really bright screen on it so you can see it in well-lit or really bright outdoor conditions or dim or dark conditions. You can see what's on the screen. Now, they did put the chrome face on there, and it does take the regular belt clip that comes with it, the 3-conductor battery charger with the standard UV5R charger it drops into. So nothing new to learn when you pick this radio up and hold it. But let's see what it does with the software and how it sounds compared analog to digital. Now, this radio came to me from Radioddity.com. They contacted me and said, "Hey, Eric, can we send you one of these and check it out to see how it compares to the DM5R and DM5R Plus?" I said, "Sure." So this is where the radio came from. Now, their site, again, in the support section, their site does offer software and programming drivers and stuff for different radios here. So if you click on Baofeng, you'll be surprised to see that the very first one is the RD5R firmware and software. Now, I'm not upgrading the firmware in this video. That'll be another video. And I'm not talking about Chirp. I'm talking about their software here. Once you download that and install it, you'll have an icon like this on your screen. My desktop is a mess, but here is your RD5R software. And I have the radio plugged into USB. I did not have to load a driver. I did not have to check a COM port. I'm not sure if that's my situation, but I'm using Windows 10. I plugged the radio in and I hit read, and the thing started reading. So maybe it found that was the only COM port that I have plugged in. Maybe it was a fluke. I don't know. But check your COM port. That's the first problem people make, is that they don't have the COM port set right, and it doesn't know where to look for the radio in your USB ports. Once you download from the radio, okay, I have only a couple things set in here, but I'll show you. This kind of looks similar to a software like an MD380 or 390 software that I'm familiar with from back in the day. One of the biggest mistakes that people make that have an issue when they're programming a DMR radio is they don't have their DMR ID programmed in. So the repeater and the radio has no idea who you are. And at that point, you won't hear anything. In the general setting here, make sure you have your radio ID put in there. The 0 in the beginning, well, I just typed in 3112887, and it puts the 0 there. All the rest of the stuff I haven't touched. We'll leave it alone. And you can see here, I did make a couple of channels. It comes pre-populated with some channels that they use at the factory to test from one end of the spectrum to the other, and they leave them in there, but they're probably useless to you. So you can delete those if you want. Just hitting the delete button, I'll delete all these, except the 2 that I made. This one is an analog repeater that I made, and entered in here. Just a standard analog VHF repeater, and I put the tones in, and that's it. And then I have a digital one here, which is actually named the KJ4YZ. I have the repeater, and that's local to me. And that's a digital one. That is 444.35, and I do have my contact here, my talk group set for a local one. I have a couple here, talk groups. If you wanted to have TAC 310, you can go into contact, digital contact. You can make one here. You can call this TAC 310, and the talk group is 310. All right. Then you can choose. You could make multiple entries in this zone with a different talk group on each one. That way you can scroll through in different zones and find the talk groups you want. Now, there is a lot of information online for learning how to program DMR, and it's a very wide subject. That's why I'm not doing it anymore, because this guy programs it different than this guy, and I program it different than you. So research online, find out, but what you need to know on DMR is you have to have, of course, your ID in the radio, your frequency of input and output, your talk group, and in some cases, your color code also, depending on where you live, and in some cases, your receive group list, and your slot. You want to make sure you're on slot 1 or slot 2. Now, some of those can be changed right on the front of the radio. So if you want to flip to time slot 1, you can do that in the setting of the radio. But it's easy to have a channel programmed in here and then go ahead and change that back and forth on the front of the radio. But all the other features in here that you would need for signaling and digital contacts and stuff are all in here. You can save this file so that you have it in the future. And all these in setting are the same functionality over here in the list. So the software is not difficult to install. It's not atrocious to look at. You can, if you're on DMR already, you can understand that this has the same functions as any other programming software. Whether you can use Chirp to move in from your MD380 to this, I'm not sure. But as I said, there's a lot of people out there that program different ways, and I don't want to leave you here as a new person that may just start into DMR. Don't consider this video me teaching you and doing a poor job of teaching you how to program. I had the volume down. KJ4YZI in Florida on 311.
Your Latin code is WA2UNP, portable 2, portable 2.
Thank you very much. Just testing a new radio. Wanted to make sure it was working, and let you get back to it. 7-3, KJ4YZI.
YZA, WA2UNP, your line clear, new radio, working great, 70.
Oh, yeah, radio's working great. Perfect.
Okay.
Was somebody calling me ending with a K? KJ4YZI.
Yeah, this is KD6ELK, Fred, and you're sounding great here in California. Just thought I'd let you know.
Oh, perfect, Fred, in California. Thank you. I'm over here in Florida just testing out a RD5R, the Baofeng DMR radio. Just wanted to see if it was working, and thanks a lot. 7-3, KJ4YZI. So when you look at the actual menu features going into menu, you don't have too many things here. You can change the zone. You can, scan different frequency or channels you have programmed. Contact, you can manual dial a contact in here if you wanted to, dial in a talk group that you don't have programmed in. Let's say you find someone that's got a local talk group and you want to input it in on the fly. You can text message or SMS or message. I'm not sure how many people do this or what networks support it, but the feature is here. I know it'll work pretty flawlessly from radio to radio in a group environment or maybe a simplex fashion or whatever if you're talking with a couple different people. But you have an inbox and you can create a message and you can use the keys here to input the lettering for the message. And you could also change your let's see. You can go into set and you can change the color code, different radio config, high power, low power, radio ID and stuff like that. You can configure. So the menu is not as advanced in the actual accessible menu as a UV5R. You can't really, I guess there's a way to change timeout timers and stuff, but I don't think that's in the menu itself on the front of the radio. Seems that the actions in the front of the menu are for digital only. Even if I'm on an analog channel, going through here, it doesn't give me much of the options that you're used to on a UV5R, but that's okay because they're in the programming software itself. So mainly they're gearing toward the DMR functionality on the front of the radio rather than the old analog features. Anyway, so that was on TAC 311. The audio on this thing is really good. I didn't have it turned. Let's see, that was 3/4 of the volume turned all the way up. Sounding good. And when you transmit on this thing, I know you can't see it on the camera. I'm looking at it. Let me do it this way. When you transmit on this thing, you do see the group call, the time, talk group that you're transmitting to, and the returning station, their ID. You can program their IDs in, so that way it would show their call sign on the screen when that contact is programmed into your radio. So all in all, a quick video on the RD5R, which is actually a successful Tier 2 radio. Now, as far as I can confirm, there are somebody on that local repeater right now on time slot 2. That was busy. So I went on time slot 1 and went to 311 while they were on time slot 2, and he did not text me like I asked him to see if I was coming through on both time slots. So he said he didn't even know I was there. And so evidently it is time. It is proven with the other people I see on the reviews also online. Yes, it is Tier 2, so it is working. I anticipate this radio being quite popular for those that are on a budget for DMR radios without having to break the bank. The RD5R available at Radiodity and many other stores online. But thanks for watching this quick video on the RD5R Baofeng DMR radio from KJ4YZI 73.